Yes, good morning, guys. Okay. Yes, um, yeah, here we go. So last class we discussed the basics of timer circuit operation, timer hardware to generate delay by counting the internal clock pulses. Okay, let us uh, let us do this. Okay, so I was about to show you the a program execution because we'll see how the basic timer program works. That is how the delay is generated. Okay, and that we'll check out in the compiler because what we discussed is a theory concept. So far it is you know uh, correct. I mean, so far it is working practically. That we'll check now. Okay, timer operation. This is our students are joining. So okay, okay, okay. Here we go. Okay. Yes, this is a program. So first is the what is the first step is? First is always select the timer and the mode of operation. Timer and mode of operation. So that is we have to load a value to T mod register. Okay. So 01 indicates timer 0 in mode 1 operation. Timer 0 in mode 1 operation. Okay. Very commonly used mode of operation is mode 1. We can use other mode to also. We'll look into that problem also. Mode 1, mode 2 operation. Mode 0 is not that popular. Mode 3 is not used. In 8051 split timers are not used. Maybe I'll discuss that later, but since it's not frequently used, I'll not spend much time on that. The split timer of you know 8050 on microcontroller, that is mode 3 operation. Okay, done. So in the next step, what we are doing is we are loading some initial value to the timer. In this case, the value taken is I think the FF initial value to the in the timer. So to start with, okay, uh, okay. So to start with, the initial value is FFFTH. So FF is loaded in the upper byte of the timer, that is TH0, and the F2 is loaded in the lower byte of the timer, TL0. Okay. So first, okay, you can load TH0 first and the TL0. It doesn't matter. Okay. So ultimately, anyway, these values will be loaded into timer 0. Okay. So next step is start the timer. I'll give a space here so that okay. So start the timer. After starting the timer, set BTR0 indicates start the timer. Start the timer. Okay. Once the timer is started, okay, the timer hardware starts counting the internal clock. Since it is a timer, it will count the internal clock pulse. Okay. So on the application of clock pulse, the timer count increases, it's always increases, it doesn't decrease. It cannot be like we can start with FFFF, and on the application of clock pulse the count decreases like FFF, not like this. In 8051, this is possible in other controllers, but in the 8051 based microcontrollers, it's always count up. That is, we always count in the increment fashion, not in the decrement fashion. On the application of clock pulse, the next count comes FF F3H. This continues. Last clock pulse FF FFH. So the count will be FF FFH. On the application of next clock pulse, the counter resets to 0. Since it is a mode 1 operation, it will automatically reset back to 0. Okay. uh, okay, so the counter will automatically resets back to 0000. It is default. Okay. After this, if you want to continue from this initial count only, not this count, we have to load this value again. That means we have to repeat this operation. Okay, it's nothing but a repeat operation. Okay. So when this timer overflows, TF flag will be set to 1. TF 0, since we are using timer 0, TF flag will be set to 1. Okay. So let us look into this. So we have initialize the timer, started the timer, and once the timer starts, you have to wait till the flag is to be set to 1. Okay, so we have to wait for the flag to set to 1. Till then, we have to continuously monitor the TF0 flag. Okay, and the last class we discussed why JNB instruction is preferable than any other instruction. Let's add a question in the last class. What is the C statement equivalent to JNB? Can somebody tell me? Okay, the C statement should continuously evaluate the some bit condition. Okay, let us see. So if somebody can answer that question today, okay, you can Google it. In case if you have any, no problem, you can Google it also. No problem. Okay, so after all, it's a time to learn anyway. Okay, all of us are learning. Okay, here we go. Okay, so okay, once the flag is set to 1, okay, the compiler will come out of this line. Till then, jump if not bit. So TF0 is not set to 1. It will go back to this target location. The target location happens to be the same line. Okay. So that means the compiler is forced to execute the same line or wait till the flag is set to 1. Okay. So in in the compiler terminology, the compiler is forced to execute the same line till the flag is set to 1. Once the flag is set to 1, the compiler will come out of the loop. It will go to, if situation is that, if let's say if TF0 will never set because of some problem, let us say TF0 will, of course, one day it has to set, but in case if it does not set, it becomes an infinite loop. This line becomes an infinite loop. Okay. Yes, but it doesn't happen usually because timer will should reach a final count. FFF. Okay. Yeah. So after setting the after the flag is set to 1, we are using P1.5 to check whether the to measure the delay. Okay, at P1.5 what we are doing, sorry, at P1.5 what we are, this is the bit condition of P1.5, that is it is set and reset whenever the timer overflows, and this delay gives the tells this time period, this period of the pulse generated on P1.5 tells us the what is the duration of the delay generated, what is the delay generated by the timer. So after the bit is toggled, that is P1.5 is toggled, the timer is stopped, clear TR0, and the overflow flag is reset to 0, so that next time when the timer overflows, that will generate an interrupt, or it will come to know about that, and repeat this operation so that we continuously generate a square pulse like this on P1.5. You can take any bit. I have taken P1.5 for example. Okay, let's let us run this program. Okay. Yes, I think is there somebody on the line waiting? Okay, no problem. Here we go. Okay, yes. Okay. So first, let's check the program. Save the file, of course. After saving the file, check for syntax error. Build target. No syntax errors. Debug start session. Okay. Yes, in this case, what we have to check is we have to check two things. One is the, of course, this what you call logic analyzer window. Let me move this down because we don't need to. Of course, I'll run the program stepwise execution. Okay, so we'll see P1.5. Okay, so how to set up this guys? Set up. I mean to um, let's hold on, sir, hold on. Yes, I'm sorry for this. Okay. Hey, sorry. I got a call and sorry for that. Okay, here we go. So where was this? Okay, P1.5. Okay, this is showing port P1. Okay, but which pin I had selected? Okay, so that we can check it. Of course, better to take configure it again. Okay, so what are the pin is P1.5. Even if you say P1.5, when you save it, it will show only P1 only. Okay, but how to select that bit only? Here you have to say bit. You can select hexadecimal display also 0 to FF, it will display 0 to FF. This doesn't matter anyway. It doesn't, that hardly matters. Okay. And if you uncheck, it will show the, this decimal display 0 to 255. If you select this, it will show it as, FF. Instead of 255, it will show it as F. That's all. Okay. That's not that important because amplitude we are not bothered. I mean, it's not a physical waveform generation. Unlike just like in Lika we discuss waveform generation, it is not that. Okay, but it has its own application that we'll see later. No problem. Okay, clock pulses generation. Okay, so P1.5 is set. At the same time, we have to check the timer circuit. Okay, so for that, go to peripherals. There is a timer option. We are using timer 0. Select timer 0. Okay, fine. Guys, in this case, observe this window, guys. I'll place somewhere here. What does this window shows? Timer 0 window. Okay, it shows the mode of operation. Of course, it's not selected yet. By default, it shows 0. Okay, if you want to check various modes of operation, you can go here, select this. It will show the various modes of operation. Since I have selected 8050 on microcontroller, that is the controller. What I have selected is 8089 S52. Oh, sorry, it is S52. 8089 S52. S52. Okay, this is basically an 8051 based microcontroller. In this, there are two timers, timer 0, timer 1. Each timer has a 4 mode of operation. Okay, so thereby it shows 4 modes of operation. Timer mode 0 13-bit, mode 1 16-bit, mode 2 8-bit auto reload mode, mode 3 2 8-bit timer or counter. It is a split timer actually. Okay, fine. That we'll see later. Don't worry about that. Okay. what we are selecting is a timer. What we are configuring is a timer, not a counter. Yes, in fact, we need not change any of this parameter because all this we are controlling in the program. Okay, you just open this and observe the what we have to observe in this window, TH0 and TL0, and of course this one also. We need to observe these two components, TH0, TL0, and this one TF0, because we know that when the timer, I don't know why, oh yes, when the timer overflows, the TF0 flag will be set to 1. TF0 flag will be set to 1. Okay, we need to monitor these three bit conditions. Okay, so let us look into this now. Okay, yeah, here we go. Yeah, let us run the program, guys. Again, F11 on my keyboard. Okay, where is tmod? Guys, if you observe tmod, you can even check the tmod here. In fact, tmod, tcon, all are here. No problem. Okay, we can monitor all the four special function register at the same time. Okay, F11 on my keyboard. First, tmod is set to 01. 01 means timer 0 in mode 1 operation. Okay, yeah, next. F11 on my keyboard. Okay, so what does this did is it transferred F2 to TL0. It transferred F2 to TL0. Okay, right. That's next step. Anyway, one of the instruction in the next FF2 TF0. FF2 TF0. F11 on my keyboard. This observe this. Next, start the timer. Set bit TF0 indicates start of the timer. Timer starts. Okay, fine. When the timer starts, okay, F11 on my keyboard. Okay, this when the timer starts. Okay, so the content of tcon is 10. Why? Because TR0 flag is set to 1. TR0 flag is set to 1. When TR0 flag is set to 1, content of tcon becomes 10. That's all. Okay. So next is F11 on my keyboard. Let me erase all this. Okay. So yeah. So F11 on my keyboard. What we have to do is, as we continue to execute the program, the timer starts counting receive the internal clock pulse, and it starts counting the internal clock pulse. Okay, fine. So I'm pressing F11 on my keyboard. You can observe that the same line is being executed. Okay. At the same time, you can see that the count is incrementing. The count in timer 0, it is incrementing. Okay. So I'm pressing F11 on my keyboard. You can see okay. The question here is why it is jumping by 2. By the way the button press on my keyboard, it is taking twice press. That's why it is incrementing by 2. Okay. So if you learn on my keyboard, you can observe that the time is incrementing FBH, FDH. Okay. This next, when it goes to FFH, say the final count it has reached is FFH. Okay. So on the application now on the application of next clock pulse. Okay. Observe this timer 0 as well as TF0, and you have to observe this arrow also. It will jump out of the loop. Okay. If you learn on my keyboard, TF0 is set to 1. TF0 is set to 1. Okay, it's automatic set to 1 in the sense it is what you call this as this enabled. Enabled indicates it is set to 1. Okay. So after this, you guys observe this. Because on the application of next clock pulse, the timer is reset to 0000. It has taken 2 clock pulses. As I said, my button press is taking 2 clock pulses. Count has reached to 0001H. Okay, fine. Now, when I press F11 again, we can see that since TF0 is set to 1, it will come out of the loop. It goes to the next line. That is line number 9. In this case, what should happen is it is not yet executed. In this case, what will happen is P1.5 will be set to P1.5 will be complemented. Okay, if it is initially high, it will be reset to 0, or if it is initially low, it will be reset to high. Okay, it will be set to high. If you learn on my keyboard, okay, you can see that good guys, could you notice one green line here? I don't know whether it is visible on your screens, because you may be using mobile device. I'm not sure whether this green line is visible. So if you learn on my keyboard, so I got one green line here. That means P1.5 set to 1. Okay, fine. Yes, what is the next instruction is? Next instruction is clear TR0. When clear TR0 indicates, see, what you can observe is the timer is still running. Timer is still running. I want to stop the timer and I want to start the timer with the initial count of FF, F2H. FF F2H. Okay, so thereby I have to stop the timer. Okay, clear TR0. Okay, when clear TR0 is executed, it has stopped the timer. That's why the count didn't increase. Next, clear TF0. This flag should be reset to 0. This flag should be reset to 0. That is, it should be unchecked. Okay, F11 on my keyboard, we can see that TF0 is unchecked. Okay, now it is ready. The timer is now ready to take clock pulses, and it will notify next time when the timer overflows from FFFF to 0000. Okay, F11 on my keyboard, SGM repeat. Okay, when SGM repeat is executed, it will go back to this line where again the timer is loaded with the initial count of FF F2H. Okay, fine. Let us execute this again. FF F2H. So if FTH is loaded, timer is started, timer continues till the flag is TF0 is set to 1. So till the TF0 is set to 1. Okay, timer will continue the till then the timer will execute the same line. Okay, so once it reaches final count, it will come out of the come out of the loop, and it will execute this line. Okay, so thereby it has complemented. Of course, here we can't see. I'll zoom in and I'll show you. Okay, and this operation repeats. Okay, when I'm pressing F11 continuously, that means it is continuously executing the program. Okay, now let us observe the waveform. Let us see, because I want to show you the what we call time period of the time period of the clock pulse or square pulse generated by the timer. Okay, zoom on. We got this kind of waveform. Okay, I'll select. I'll zoom in so that I can observe this one of the waveform very closely. Okay, this what has happened is when the timer went from FF F to H to FF FFH FFFFH. Oh, sorry, one more F. Okay, this also F actually. This also F. FFH, and on the application of next clock bus, the timer is reset to 0000. It has generated this amount of delay. It has generated this amount of delay. Okay, fine. This repeats. Okay, so now let us identify the time period of the pulse generated by the timer. Okay, zoom in. Okay, this is difficult to measure. Okay, somewhere here. Okay, I'll erase this also. Yes. Now, how to measure the time period is keep the cursor on one of these edge. You can use any edge. In fact, you can use this edge also, no problem. Okay, from this point to okay, so cursor position. Okay, from this point, one edge is this point, other edge is this point. Okay. Okay, it's approximately, let us say, 28.2 microseconds. You can see that on the tooltip window. This is called as a tooltip window. You can see one horizontal window displayed on the screen. On the delta, don't worry about the other factors. On delta side, you can see that 28.2 microseconds. It is approximately 35 kilohertz. Okay, so delays, that is duration, is 28.2 kilohertz. Okay, 28.2 kilo. Sorry, two. What was that? Is microseconds. It was just a second. It was microseconds, right? No, yeah, microsecond. 28.2 microseconds. 28 approximately. I'm approximating this. 28.2 microseconds. Okay, fine. Yes, on what factor it depends. Okay, fine. I'll show you that. For that, let us say this. I'll run the program. I'll go back again. Okay, so I'll save the program. Please let us run the program again. Save the file. Build target. Okay. Now this next is this. You can see something on this window. Target. Okay. Next to that, there's one ray. Very unusual symbol. I don't know. This is options for target. Okay. Click on this options for target. When options for target is selected, here you can see that the target is 8089. Oh, it is some other figure. What you call target device. No problem. I'll select the. I'll change the target device. Okay. We can change it here only. Device. Device is 8089C. 80. 89 is 52. 8089 is 52. I can select this device. I can select that device. Okay. Now the target device is 8089 is 52. Okay. Yes. By default, the compiler shows the frequency of this controller is 33 megahertz. And as I said in the earlier class, the frequency, crystal frequency can vary from 10 megahertz to 30 megahertz. It can vary from 10 megahertz to 30 megahertz. Of course, even above 30 megahertz is also possible. This controller has a frequency of operation of 33 megahertz, but we can change this, okay, because our controller, there is 8889S52 in our hardware, actually physical hardware. It operates with a frequency of 11.0592 megahertz. 11.0592 megahertz. Okay, so change this frequency here. You can change it here. By default it is in megahertz. 11.0592 megahertz. Okay, select this frequency, press OK. Okay, now the frequency of operation is 11.0592 megahertz. In the last class, we have understood that the timer takes a clock pulses at a rate of 11.0592 megahertz divided by 12. It is 921.6 kilohertz. 921.6 kilohertz. The frequency of this clock pulse is f is equal to 1 by t. It is 1.085 microseconds. 1.085 microseconds. Yes, okay, fine. Yes, the next point is this is okay. This is with respect to frequency we have understood. Okay. Next point is how to find out the delay. Okay. That is the next discussion. Okay. For example, if some initial value is given, let us say we start with the we start the timer with the initial count of, I'll write here. We start with the initial count of F2H. Sorry for this. We start with the initial count of F2H. We apply the clock pulse. It reaches the final count of FFH. Now what we have to do is we have to find out how many amount of delay is generated for a given initial count. Or let us say, for example, I want some random delay. Let us say I want 12 microsecond delay. If I want 12 microsecond delay, how much should be the initial count loaded to the timer to generate the required amount of delay? That we'll understand. We'll discuss now. Okay. Okay. This now in this case, in this program especially, the initial count was equal to FFF2H. Okay. FFF2H. The question is number of clock pulses counted by the timer will give the delay. For example, last class we have understood this. That is, I need to generate 5-second delay, for example. Okay, so for that I am using one timer, and this timer hardware is taking the clock pulse whose frequency, whose time period is 1 second, for example. Okay, whose frequency is whose time period is 1 second. Okay, I need to count. I need to generate 5-second delay. Okay, how many clock pulses the timer has to count to generate 5-second delay? It has to count 1 second into 5. It has to count 5 clock pulses to generate 5-second delay. Next, I want let's say 10-second delay. 10-second delay. So then it has to count 10 clock pulses each of 1 second duration to generate 10-second delay. That means it has to count 10 clock pulses. Okay. Similarly, the number of clock pulses counted by the timer hardware, if the initial count is FFH or any value goes, X, Y, Z, some ABCD, for example. Okay. Okay. How to calculate? Okay. So for that, there are 2 methods of doing that. Okay. There is 2 methods of finding the value to be loaded to the timer, or to find out the delay generated by the timer if some random initial values are given, like for example initial value is ABCD. So for this initial value, what is the delay generated by the timer? Okay, how to find out this? There are 2 methods. It is called as hexadecimal method, or what is known as decimal method. Okay, yes, the methods are very simple. These names are quite strange, but methods are very simple. Okay. Example: if the value is given in hexadecimal, obviously, because in the program also we saw that the value was FFFTH. It is obviously it is in hexadecimal value, because to the compiler, we don't load decimal value. We obviously we load hexadecimal value. So for this hexadecimal value, what is the delay generated by the timer? Okay, so that we are going to calculate using hexadecimal method. In hexadecimal method, what we do is we take the initial value as YYXX, some random representation, okay, of the initial count loaded to the. So this is the value which is loaded to the timer. Okay, that means TH0 will have YYH, okay, and TL0 will have XXH. Okay, that is initial value loaded to the timer. Okay, now in the hexadecimal method of calculation, this initial value is subtracted from FFH because the final count is FFH and plus 1. Why plus 1 is because in hexadecimal method, when the counter reaches final count of FFH, this FFH corresponds to 65,535. If you convert, this we had discussed, if you convert FF to decimal method, decimal value, decimal equivalent, it is 65,535. But timer is, since it is a 16-bit timer, 2 power 16 corresponds to 65,536. That means this FF, which happens to be the final count, corresponds to 65,535. It is one short of the maximum clock pulse that can be counted by the timer. Okay, so because of this reason, plus 1 is added to the count to get the proper count, that is number of clock pulses counted by the timer. Okay, so you understood this? It's very simple, FFH, because it's count, it equals to 65,535. We want 65,536. Okay, so how to do this? Plus 1, very simple. Okay, so that's why FFH plus 1 minus initial value loaded to the timer. Okay, fine. This value into 1.085 microseconds. Okay, it's something like this, let me write somewhere here. Okay, it is FF, and let us say initial count is ABCD plus 1 into 1.085 microseconds. Why it is 1.085 microseconds is because the timer is taking the I think I have not written that. Okay, no problem. Okay, yeah. So you know that the time period of one machine cycle, okay, is approximately 1.085 microseconds. That means time period of one clock pulse is 1.085 microseconds, and hence the timer counts some random number of clock pulses. What is the total delay generated by the timer? Okay, so that is that can be calculated as the final count minus the initial value plus 1, of course, into the time period of one machine cycle, which gives the total delay generated by the timer. Very simple. Okay, is in other words is nothing but the number of clock pulses into the time period of one machine cycle gives the delay generated by the timer. Very simple. In other words, we can put it like that. Okay, so this is one method where we get the from this we get the delay generated by the timer. This is one method. This is called as hexadecimal method. Why? Because we take initial value which is in hexadecimal value as it is. In decimal method, what we do is very simple. Convert this initial value into decimal value. Very simple. Decimal value. Okay. Once it is converted into decimal value, it is represented as NNNN, that is decimal value. This decimal value, which is equivalent of the hexadecimal initial count, subtracted from 65,536. Very simple. Okay. Into 1.085 microseconds. So this gives the delay value directly. Very simple. This is, we can follow either way. So we can follow in any method. So we'll get the value properly. No problem. Okay. Yes, but in this case, what happens is, yeah, here also it gives the number of count. Okay. Let us do this for this example. What the program we have written. Okay. In this program, the initial count was FF So in the hexadecimal method, what we do is FF minus FF of course plus 1. +1. Okay, I think the author has not written here. It should be +1. Okay, which is equal to, I think it should be 0 2h, 0 EH. I think 0 EH, correct. Yeah, author has considered here. Okay, no problem. Okay, if this +1, it is around 0 EH, 0 EH. Okay, fine. Yes, but what happens is that we want to calculate the delay. For the delay, this gives the number of clock pulse. Okay, this what does this equation gives, by the way? FF minus ABCD +1. This gives the number of clock pulse. Number of clock pulse. Number of clock pulse. But if we do this method, the result will be in terms of hexadecimal value. Convert this hexadecimal value to decimal value. So that, see, the reason very simple is this, we are comfortable with the decimal values. If, for example, how many, let's say, mobiles you have, we'll say 1 2 3 whatever it is. Okay, we don't specify an hexadecimal value. I have a 0f number of devices, not like that. Okay, we are comfortable with the decimal values, so convert the hexadecimal into decimal, multiply with the time period of one machine cycle. This is called as time period of one machine cycle. So it is 1.085 microseconds, which gives the delay. Okay, so thereby it is 0d. Okay, converted into, of course, +1, it will become 0e. 0e means 14. I think the author has done here 14. Okay, observe this, it is 14 here. So this 0e corresponds to 14 decimal. 14 decimal into 1.085 microseconds gives a delay of 15.19 microseconds. Okay, this is the time period of one half cycle. This is a time period, only one half cycle. Okay, time period of one half cycle. If you want to find out the time period of the complete cycle, the waveform generated on the port, what you have to do is you have to multiply this by 2. This into 2 gives the delay, delay of time period of the complete cycle. It is approximately 30.38 microseconds. 30.38 microseconds. Okay, fine. So thereby what I do now is this program again, I'll run again. Of course, this gave the 28 microseconds. Let us run this program again. This was a little different because I'll tell you why. I'll tell you why this is giving a different value. Debug start session. Plus now I'll not run stepwise, because we know stepwise execution is not necessary. I'll straight away run the program. Debug run. Okay, so it is running. You can see that even the mode of operation selected is mode 1, 16-bit timer. Okay, fine. I'll stop the timer. Stop the execution of the program. Zoom on. Okay, so select a particular point, zoom in. Okay, somewhere here. Okay, so let us measure the time duration now. From this point to this point, what I want to know is it is approximately 28 microseconds. Okay, fine. Yes, what I check now is let me know this here somewhere here. I'll measure the time period of one complete period. Sorry, I'm not able to place it properly. Okay, somewhere here. It is showing 56 microseconds. Okay, it is showing 56 microseconds. Okay, that is total time period here is from this point to this point is 56, approximately 56 microseconds. Whereas in this document, the author has run the program on a different compiler where it gave the time period of around 30 microseconds. It's supposed to be the equal, it cannot be a different value. And moreover, here also the placement of the cursor, will matter. Let me zoom in again in case if I can get a better, better reading. Let me check. Let me check this value. Because that also matters anyway. Measurement should be proper. Otherwise, this is the maximum zoom I can do. Somewhere here. You can observe, slight change in position of the cursor will change the value. It is around, yeah, I'm getting the same value, 28.2 microseconds. You can approximate it to 28 microseconds. Okay. 28 microseconds. So as I said, this difference is because of many reasons, guys. I'll tell you. I think I discussed that again. I had discussed in earlier, not here, earlier case. It depends on three reasons. One is the compiler, that difference in delay generation, and another is the clock source, that is a clock frequency, we can say clock frequency. Okay, and the third case is what is known as the programming language. Okay, I can say language, programming language, either it is assembly or C, it matters. Okay, based on this there is a slight variation in the delay. Okay, yes, I'll check the target options also, because is it set to, yeah, it's set to 11.05 into megahertz. Use on chip from, it is not necessary. That's all. I'll run the program again. The target, otherwise things are okay, no, otherwise values are correct. It is taking extra clock cycles, because okay, no problem. Debug start session. That's why we are getting more delay. Okay, debug run 1.05 into megahertz. Okay, I'll stop the program. Debug stop. You have to stop the debug run session, not the debug start session. Okay, if you stop debug session also, this window will go away. Okay, will not be able to observe the waveform properly. Okay? This window is necessary to observe the. It's around showing now. It is around yeah, it's around 28 only. 28.2 microseconds. Okay, fine. Okay, that's about the calculation of delay generated by the timer. Okay, fine. Yes, next is before I go to this, this is another way of generating the delay. I'll go to that a little later. This here it is 60 microseconds. Okay, so in this case, in frequency of the square wave generated on P1.5. Okay, yes. Now in this case, observe this, guys. Okay, calculate the frequency of the square wave. Okay, what is the frequency we are getting, by the way? Just a second. We just zoom out. Frequency also we can measure. I don't know whether it is approximately. Give me a second. This point to this point is no, it is different. 17 kilohertz. It's showing, not possible. This is using because this I'll program, I'll explain later, no problem. Okay, the square wave generated on this is without the this is considering the time taken by the compiler to execute the instruction. This is another way of calculating the delay. We'll not go into this one. This will see later, no problem. Okay, yes, next. Yes, next is let us say I want to generate some delay. To calculate the value to, okay, let us say next situation is I need to generate some random delay. Okay, so let us say some 10 microseconds. I want to generate 10 microseconds using the timers. How to calculate value to be loaded to the timer. Calculate value to be loaded to timer. Okay. So in the last example, we had taken some random example, that is for our understanding purpose, F2H. Now, for a given delay, how to calculate the value to be loaded to the timer? Let us look into that. Okay. This procedure explains the value to be loaded to the timer for to generate a required amount of delay. Okay. Fine. First step is, of course, in all our program, we take the frequency as 11.05. You can also assume, you need not take some random examples like 33 megahertz, not necessary. Okay. Yeah, frequency always 11.059 megahertz. Okay, assuming this as the initial value, I am sorry, assuming this as the frequency of operation, divide the desired delay by 1.085 microseconds. Okay, this, in other words, this is the case. I want 10 microseconds delay to be generated. The question is, how many clock pulses I need to count? How many clock pulses to be counted? Okay. For that, what we do is we divide this delay, that is in our case it is 10 microsecond delay, by the time period of one machine cycle. Okay. In 8051, especially for a frequency of 11.0592 megahertz, 92 megahertz. Okay, time period of one machine cycle is 1.085 microseconds. Okay, so thereby to calculate the value to be loaded to the timer to generate the required amount of delay, divide the delay by the time period of one machine cycle. Okay, what does it give? It gives number of clock pulses to be generated. Ultimately, that's what we want to count. That's what we want to find out. Okay, number of clock pulses to be generated, clock pulses to be counted. To be counted. Uh, you know, to be counted is equal to the delay to be generated divided by time period of one machine cycle, that is 1.085 microseconds. 1.085 microseconds. This gives the number of clock pulses to be counted by the timer. Okay, fine. Now, whatever the value we get, number of clock pulses to be counted by the timer, subtract from 65,536. Why? Because the timer, what we have to load, okay, is it is in hexadecimal value. That is, we have to load value to TH0. For example, if you are using timer 0, we have to load value to TH0 as well as TL0. Okay, what value we have to load? We have to load hexadecimal value. Okay, we have to load. See, this number of clock pulses is a decimal value, is a decimal count. Okay, is a decimal number. But to the timer, we have to load hexadecimal value. How to convert this decimal value to hexadecimal value? Okay, for that, what we do is first subtract this. I'll erase all this, because it's space constraint. Okay, yeah. So subtract whatever the value. Let's say we get the value as ABCD, for example. So subtract ABCD from 65,536 minus ABCD, a decimal value. There is number of clock pulses to be counted. This gives some value. This again is in terms of decimal. Convert this into hexadecimal value. Convert this into hexadecimal value. Load this hexadecimal value to the timer. Load this hexadecimal value to the timer. Okay. So after conversion, okay, convert that value, whatever the decimal value we get, into hexadecimal value. That value happens to be the initial value to be loaded to the timer. Okay. Let us say, for example, we get something like this ABCD, for example. If it's something like ABCD, so CD goes to TL, that is lower bit of the timer. AB goes to TH, for example. Very simple. Okay, so let us try this now. Okay, so what is the value to be loaded to the timer? Okay, do we have one example? Let us look into this. Let us say, for example, I need to count 5 millisecond delay. For example, I need to count. Let us say we need to generate 5 millisecond delay. So for a 5 millisecond delay, okay, the value to be loaded to the timer is, first is 5 millisecond delay divided by 1.085 microseconds. It is approximately equal to 4608 clock pulses. Okay, so this gives a value of 4608 clock pulses to be counted to generate a delay of 5 milliseconds. To generate a delay of 5 milliseconds. Okay, so thereby first convert this 4608 into hexadecimal value, 16-bit hexadecimal value, to find out the value to be loaded to the timer. So subtract this 4608 from 65,536. The resultant value is EE008. The EE goes to upper byte of the timer, 00 goes to lower byte of the timer. Very simple. Yes, okay. And load this value to the timer. Let me run this program, guys. I'll take this value to generate 5 millisecond delay. Okay, I'm not. I think the same program is written. Okay, fine. I'll modify this program what we had written for the some random value, FFFH. I'll modify this program to generate 5 millisecond delay. Okay, initial count should be initial count is EE00H. So EE should go to upper byte of the timer, and 00 should go to lower byte of the timer. Very simple. Okay. So upper byte of the timer is EEH, lower byte of the timer is 00. No problem. This 00H. I'm generating on P1.5. This, let us not change this. It's very simple. Yeah. Let us run this program, guys. Let us see whether will we be able to generate 5 millisecond delay accurately, or will there be any change? Definitely will be the change, because as I said, It depends on various factors. We'll target. Okay, debug start session. Okay, I'll run continuously, guys. I'll not go stepwise. Debug run. It is running. The program is running. Because of the delay is very high. It is definitely okay. It's running. I'll stop run session, not debug session. Okay. Zoom all. In the zoom, you can see all option. It has generated many clock pulses. Zoom in. I'll take a point and zoom in to measure the delay. Okay, fine. Let us check here somewhere. Okay. Let us see whether what is the delay generated by the timer. Okay, total delay. What I want. Okay, when I say delay, not the total time period, guys. I mean only this period. What I'm expecting, 5 milliseconds in this duration. 5 milliseconds. This should be equal to 10 milliseconds. Double of that. It should be 10 milliseconds. Okay. Yeah. Let us check this. Okay. So this is from this end to somewhere around this end is approximately 5 milliseconds. Can you notice what is the delay generated in the tooltip window? This yellow color window, what we see, which is associated with the pointer, mouse pointer is it is called as a tooltip window. I think you get this in your system also, computer system also. It is called as a tooltip window. Okay, this what is the delay it is generating is? It is generating 5.02 milliseconds. Okay, supposed to generate exact delay. Maybe I'm not placing the mouse properly. Okay, that what it is around 5.02 milliseconds. It's supposed to generate 5 milliseconds. Anyway, okay, you can measure this time period also. What is this time period? Is time period on the total time period. It should be double of that. It cannot be something else. It is around 10.04 milliseconds. Okay, this time period is 10.04 milliseconds. This is around 10.04. You can approximate it as 10 milliseconds, no problem. It's actually 10 milliseconds only. It's like generating accurate delay. As I said, it all depends on how do we place the mouse. Because I'll try this again. Okay, let me. What I do is, there's 2 more minutes. I'll leave that I will end up. Yeah, somewhere here. I need to place it. If I zoom in again, I think it is giving. Is a bigger. Oh no, it is not fitting within the window. This should be okay. Okay, starting from somewhere here, this point to somewhere here, it is should be. Oh yeah, it is again giving 5.02 milliseconds. Yeah, it is slightly more than 5 milliseconds. 5.02 milliseconds. As I said, it depends on 3 factors. It should have been 5 milliseconds exactly. One is the compiler. Okay, as I said, the author may not have used Keil compiler. In fact, he has not used Keil compiler. He has used some power. I forgot the name of the compiler. Some other compiler. It is not Keil compiler. Okay, one factor is which affects the delay generation is compiler. Second is the crystal oscillator frequency. Of course, we take exact 11.059 megahertz, but still. Third is the language. Okay, because if I write the same program in C language, the delay will be different. It cannot be 5 milliseconds. Yes, you understood this? How to find 2 things we have understood in today's class. One thing is how to calculate delay. Calculate delay if initial value is given. Delay if initial value is given. Or initial count. It's also called as initial count. Initial count is given. Another possibility is that calculate the value to be loaded to timer. Calculate value to be or initial count to be value or initial count to be loaded to the timer to generate required amount of delay. Okay. Yes, there are many examples you can look into. Various examples in the both the materials I've shared the notes as well as the this document. You have many examples. You can go through this. Possible, I'll also run a few programs so that we can. Okay, guess what I have discussed as of now is the timer part. In the next class, we'll take up counter operation, that is counter programs. Okay, there is in the counter case, what should happen is the clock pulses will be from the external device. Clock pulses will be generated by the external devices, because for a timer, the clock pulses were generated by the internal oscillatory circuit, oscillatory circuit. For a counter, the clock pulses will come from the external devices. Okay, we'll check how to do it using the compiler. That will do it, and we'll discuss this program also. This there is delay generation using the cycles. Okay, by considering the cycle, there is number of cycles. These are nothing but the machine cycles. These are called as machine cycles. I guess I'll discuss this, and in the next class, first I'll start with the discussion on machine cycles. Then we'll discuss this program. Then we'll go to counter programs. It's okay. Yes, just hold on a second. I didn't take any snapshot today. I was busy in the discussion. I didn't notice. I don't know how many students were there. Now it's showing only 40. In that, two is mine. Two is my entry. Only 38 students there. Okay, just hold on a second. I'll take because I need to uh, share this to HOD Mela. I need to share the attendance. Attendance as well as uh, students. Presence, number of students present. This screenshot, all this I have to share. Okay, it's fine. Thank you. Thanks for joining. Okay. See you soon. Take care. Bye. Bye. Stop sharing. Then stop presenting. This is stop recording is not